Hello, Internet! I'm Elliot the Purple Air Doofus, and welcome back to The Wastelands by Stephen King. Today we're covering the entire story of Town and TET. I hope you've read it yourself, because I do not want to ruin anything for you. This story starts with Jake waking up to a gentle nuzzling and licking of his face. He has this creature known as a bumbler that is a cross between a raccoon and something. It's a raccoon-like creature. It kind of attaches itself to Jake and becomes his new pet. So now the trio, now quartet, have a fifth, and it's a small animal. Roland and his team are walking along, and there's more exposition on about what happened to this future world, and I'm just kind of bored, hoping for more plot. They get to this area known as the River's Crossing. They start moving very slowly and trepidatiously, hoping not to disturb anyone or anything. And then Roland has the brilliant idea of taking a rock and throwing it at a traffic light, and people start coming out. It turns out that these people are kind of like the small town in the movie The Three Amigos, and they're like, oh, great saviors have come to help us. Please help us. It's kind of hilarious. The people notice that Roland is a gunslinger. The people notice that Eddie and Susanna are also gunslingers, and they invite the team to go back with them into this secret area where it's kind of like a secret garden. Green is growing everywhere. It's very lush with life. These people invite them to dinner, and they make Roland and his friends this giant dinner. And Jake eats it all up like there's no tomorrow, and so does Eddie and Susanna. Everybody just eats and eats and eats. And while they're eating, the people start giving more exposition on what happened to make this dystopian world. It's just kind of like, I get it. People were mad at each other, they got into a war, and now we have this. That's pretty much how dystopian exposition works. Our world was like it is today, and then it wasn't. The end. Roland gets introduced to a wise old woman who begs him not to go through the city. Roland says, I don't think there is any way around the city. And Eddie says, you know, maybe we might find help in the city. Maybe we might find someone who can give us what we need. And Roland just kind of looks at him, kind of like, and he says, what, is it so difficult to hope for the best? Roland's kind of like, And then they start talking about a bullet train. Jake immediately links this bullet train to Charlie the Choo-Choo from the children's book. I mean, I guess it's just because Jake is young, but for him to make that link seems a little awkward to me. Roland thanks the people for their food. They offered to let him stay longer, and Roland says, no, we have to go. And so Roland and his friends leave the old people behind, and Roland and his friends are very, very sad about this. Jake asks Eddie why they had to leave, and Eddie's like, if we had stayed, it would have just been harder for us to leave later. I know it was hard to leave this time, but it's going to be even harder if we left later. Jake starts having some very excellent questions about the world, and the only answer that he seems to get is from the old-time Doctor Who. I'll explain later. Really? It even hints at the idea that maybe it might explain why that, 10-year gap that I am so irritated with happened, and Roland's like, I'll explain later. It's like, no, explain now. Explain now. Jake has a nightmare about a train, and it's just like dreams. Ugh. They continue on their quest, and Roland says, okay, we're going to sit down here and we are going to blink minds. Susanna and Eddie and Jake are just kind of like, we're gonna what? And Roland's like, trust me, you can all read each other's minds. You just haven't realized it yet. And they're like, you're full of crap, Roland. He's like, just do it. And so they sit down and they start linking minds and talking about their past. It's basically another retelling of everything that has happened so far. That has happened so much this book that I don't even care. Then we get to the point where Jake tells his story about roaming around the construction site and finding the purple grass and the rose with the golden pollen and suns in the rose. Susanna links the two. She says, that's just like your dream, Roland, when you were out for 10 years, which now has been expanded to maybe 100 or 500 years. Really, Stephen? Really? But Susanna says, that's just like your dream. you know, the purple grass, the millions of suns inside of a rose, Roland has to agree with her because all the evidence is right there. And then they start talking about what their next plan of action is, and they all come to the decision that it is time to head for the train. And I'm thinking getting on the train would be perfect, because I know that the next book is supposed to be all about Roland's childhood. So if they got onto the train, there really wouldn't be much of a story for them, and we could just have them sitting around the train while Roland tells his childhood as the train barrels on. So I am hoping that the next, I think it's like 150, 200 pages, aren't just going to gloss over the train ride. I'm hoping that they are going to get to the train at the end of the book, and the next book, they will be riding the train while Roland tells his childhood stories. But we will see, as that is the end of our section for today. Do not forget that the next book that I will be reading is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. Go out and grab it by any legal means necessary. Borrow it from a friend, borrow it from a library, buy it at a bookstore, buy it on a Kindle. I don't care what you do as long as it's legal. And you read it before I ruin it for you. I've been Elliot the Purple-Haired Doofus, reminding you to watch your pajama radius, and I will see you all in the next section of The Wastelands by Stephen King. Toodles!